Welcome to Comics League Indie Wednesday Live. I am here with another Jared Bricky from Frost Comics. What's up, brother?
Oh man, so much and so little, both at the same time.
Heck yeah. So we're talking about quite an interesting project that I've actually been following for a while. That actually it's kind of the purpose of indie comics when you think about it. But first, I kind of want to ask, what got you into comics, dude?
Oh God. Okay. Are we talking about as a fan or as someone who's trying to write them now? Because I can answer either one. So
Either one, just go ahead.
okay. So well, as the guy trying to write them now, so I've been a fan of comics and superheroes and everything for years now. And like many people, when I was a child, I would sneak off to the spinner racks into the magazine section of the store when I was a kid, when my parents were shopping wherever else. And that's why I read them for a while. I still have a few that I managed to squirrel away enough money to buy from back then in a short box, and they're beat all to hell, but they're still my comics from when I was a kid, and I kept them. So that's what kept me into them. And of course, as media and superhero media and everything expanded into TV shows and movies and video games and everything else, it was easier and easier to be a fan of it from I guess kind of a distance. Even if you weren't able to keep up with all the issues, you were able to follow along through the other media. So 2 years ago, I guess it was 2 years ago, there was an open call for writers by someone on Twitter. And he was like, "Hey, I want people to write for my comic book universe." And I was like, "Oh, well, I've always wanted to write comics." And I had a comic that was in the back of my head for like 15 years, but I ended up kind of putting it on ice because I kind of had to pursue a career, I guess is the way to put it. Indie comics isn't really the way to make money yet, unless you're like really, really, really big. And while I'd love to be there, realistically, I'm not, and I certainly wasn't, 5 years ago or whatever. So I was pursuing a different line of work. But I thought, hey, what the heck? Let's give it a shot. I wrote up a kind of a test script. He loved it, and I was like, kind of how I got started. He's still kind of working things out, and in the meantime, I still had the writing bug, and I wanted to do my own thing. So I ended up working on my solo project, which you might have seen me talk about it a little bit here and there on, I was going to say Twitter, but I guess X. Project Seraphim. And in the meantime, I've been trying to network and just meet as many people as I can. And I happened to meet all the people who were putting together this project. And we were looking at public domain characters, because with Winnie the Pooh, obviously the big one, where you've seen so many different iterations of Winnie the Pooh. My favorite being Winnie the Pooh Demon Hunter by Ravensloft. But you've seen lots of different versions. I
can't believe all those really
ridiculous
versions of Winnie the Pooh.
It's insane, man. It's completely insane. Hey, there you go. What's up, Nick? So yeah, so we've seen all these different crazy versions and everything. And but so we were looking at that, and we were looking through the different characters that were available, and I saw Super Guy. So the idea behind Super Guy that I had was he was part of a hey, what's up, Aaron? Wolfsman Comics. What's up, guys? Thanks for coming out and being part of the stream. And hello to chat in general. But yeah, so I was looking at Super Guy. He was part of like one comic from like 1969 or something like that. And he was part of Charlton Press. And they were one of the many, 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 many companies that DC purchased way back when, because they wanted to buy out their competition or buy the characters or whatever else. And they bought everyone that Charlton had except for Super Guy, because they had Superman. So they looked at Super Guy and they thought, well, there really isn't anything he can really bring that we don't have with Superman. So there's really no reason for us to really use this character. So they kind of let him fade into public domain. He just didn't have an owner. And my thought process was, okay, if you read the one comic book that he's in, he looks like he's a fit guy. He looks like he's in his 20s or 30s, And I thought, okay, well, it's 1969. I was writing this in 2022. So let's say that it's just been, that many years since he was a superhero. And let's say that he's now like an 85-year-old dude instead of being like a guy in his 20s or 30s. And I thought, I love everything about superheroes, whether it's serious or funny, parody, satire, whatever. If it's fun, it's fun. If it's a good story, it's a good story. And so I thought, well, there's a lot of things that I love. I like One Punch Man. I really love. Thank you, Nick. I really love the first decade of the MCU and the shorts that they were doing. That you got
Yes.
some of the bonus features. So one of the inspirations for this was a funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so if you know the short, you know that Agent Coulson is at a Quickie Mart and he's nonchalantly shopping when the place gets robbed. And I thought of doing something kind of like that, and kind of in the same vein as like how Saitama in One Punch Man is just, he's bored and most of his life is going around doing mundane tasks. And I thought, okay, so we've got like my influences are like, let's say The Tick, let's say One Punch Man, let's say Funny Thing Happened, and kind of mush them together into a story about this retiree superhero who's really grumpy and he just wants to shop, and he goes to Senior Citizens Discount Day because he wants to just save some money on all the stuff he's getting, and it happens to get robbed. And it happens to get robbed, and he's like Mr. Magooing his way through the robbery. He's not even aware. Like at one point, he looks at a robber, and he sees the robber. He's wearing like a ski mask, and he asks if it's like a COVID thing. Like, what's the mask? I don't understand. Then he sees another guy, and he's trying to move a pallet, and like so everything. He's completely clueless until like the very end. And so it's just a very fun, very lighthearted look into what it might be like to be an 85-year-old retiree superhero.
That's hilarious. But I don't know if you saw this, but on Instagram, I think someone made a bunch of those AI photos of like what the Justice League would look like if they were like geriatrics. That's kind of what this reminds me of. So I'm like, oh wow,
oh, that's awesome. Maybe I need to get them to promote for me.
that would be awesome. But yeah, that is really cool because there are a lot of interesting characters. The good part about them being in the public domain is that you can do whatever you want with them. And
yes.
no one's gonna complain. No like company's gonna complain because they essentially gave you the character.
Pretty much. And I mean, that's the thing that's beautiful about Super Guy. If for some reason, and it's not, I mean, Super Guy is completely public domain, but if for some reason DC wanted to come at me and our tiny little project, I can always point to the fact that this Super Guy with like an old in the middle, he's old, he's super old guy. It's not the same guy that was in the 1969 comic. He looks mostly the same, but he's got instead of having the hood, we wanted to go with the because he had a hood originally. It was like a full mask, but we wanted to go with the grumpy face so you could see his beautiful old visage. Because when I was writing it, I had this really clear idea of like Abe Vigoda, but like a superhero Abe Vigoda. So like I wanted to have like the exposed head so you can see everything there.
That works. And a Super Guy has a new version with a man bun, or what?
Well, it's kind of a play off of the Superman curl, but it's a little more exaggerated and a little more out in front. I would love to answer Aaron. I would love to make more Super Guy comics. So the Out of Obscurity is an anthology book, so it's got 6 other stories. A lot of people have really liked the Super Guy comic. The people who've either been involved in editorial or the art process, or the people who've been able to kind of test read it. It's been really well received, but it's just one of 7 stories. And if we manage to reach our stretch goal, then we'll actually have an 8th story by Randy Zimmerman of Arrow Comics, because this is actually being published as an Arrow Comics project. But that being said, it's kind of a test run for Super Guy, because if people like Super Guy, if they get either the PDF or they get the physical, we were doing either one, and they like it, I'm not hard to reach. You can reach me on Twitter, or you can email me. Well, I'll have all my contact information in the comic, actually, because part of this whole project is it's really kind of a big ad for us as writers and artists. Some of the artists in there are industry vets, and some of the writers actually have been doing other projects. We have Hojo, who did the Mythicals. He's in there. So I mean, Hojo at this point, $10,000 campaign, he's established. So we've got him. We've got Immortal Rising, Aaron C. He's in there. But for me, this is my first credit. Critical Blast is actually in here. This is his first comic book credit. He's written other stuff, but this is the first time he's written a comic. So a few of us it's kind of an ad for us and what we can do and what we can write. And some of the artists and some of the colorists and things like that, they're also kind of new, and or at least letting people know, hey, we can do all this great stuff. So once you get the comic, if you like Super Guy, let me know, because if there's an audience for Super Guy, I would love to write more, because like I said, I was inspired by a lot of different things like The Tick and One Punch Man and Funny Thing Happened, so many things like that. There's like a world I could write, a whole world of parody and satire and just fun and stuff like this. Like I've told people, it's a joke, but it's really not. If I get the chance to write another one, I'm absolutely going to title it Super Guy Returns, and it's just going to be about him returning something to the grocery store. Because like, come on, I mean, so I want to write more Super Guy. I really do. I think it's got legs. I think people would really resonate with it. So I hope I get to answer that question.
That'd be a hilarious idea, to make the parodies of the titles all the Superman movies. Like,
right, exactly.
The quest for peace, and then he's just
it's the quest. It'll be the quest for peas. He's looking for peas at the grocery store. Yeah.
Yes. What would the parody for Man of Steel be?
I'll have to think on that one. I'm not sure, but that one would be good. Yeah, I like that too.
Honestly, the whole idea about doing debuting like this character, say, in an anthology book with other established talent, is actually a fantastic idea, because the people that are like fans of Hojo buy the book, and then they're like, oh, well, I like this guy as well. So
exactly,
that was my idea, honestly, on how to get, like, in the mainstream comic book industry, how to get like more of these like characters that don't get a lot of attention into the mainstream by putting them on like Justice League or the Avengers, because you buy like Justice League for Superman and you're like, who is this? That's interesting.
Yeah, I think that you're completely right. And I think that, I mean, you have to handle it the right way. I think that we, both of us could probably think of examples where someone has tried to introduce a character that way, but the character has been, they've taken up maybe too much screen time, and you need to be introduced with a little bit more of a light touch. But if you do that and you give someone a chance to shine in the right way, then it's great. I remember, John Douglas, right?
Yes.
Yeah. John was talking about how when you are writing a character, and he was talking about this in regards to the Invincible and Adam Eve short, or not short, but the mini that came out. And he was talking about, like, someone said, well, why wasn't she the one fighting Omni-Man and everything? Well, the point that John was making is that if you have a character who is not the main protagonist, that you don't want them to outshine the main protagonist, because it makes the main protagonist look like a chump. So like, if you have someone, yeah, exactly. So if you have someone that you want to introduce like that in a team, it's great. And that would be a great way to do it. You just don't want to have them come in and like, I'm the best thing ever, I'm the baddest man. You don't want to do that.
Skywalker.
Right. I wasn't going to go there, but I'm glad you did, because absolutely.
I'll go there, dude. Trust me. Or it's like, you can also take that to the extreme, because if all you comic book history nerds remember, like in the death of Superman, the Justice League was like characters that no one's heard of nor cares about.
Yeah,
maybe Guy Gardner, but still, the point is, they're like extremely obscure characters, and everyone's like, why would I buy this?
That was the original Out of Obscurity, actually. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's the same thing for the Avengers. Ironically, it took killing the original team then to go like, let's just bring in the characters that actually sell books.
Right. Yeah. Well, this experiment has clearly failed, so let's retool here, regear here.
Yeah. So in terms of like, so you kind of is this, but like, what's like the mindset that comes from like approaching a like character that's like that's in the public domain, would you say?
Well, for me, and I think that, I don't want to speak for everybody on the project, but I think that everyone, based on my knowledge of it, because I haven't read any of the stories other than my own, I'm very excited to read a lot of them. Tower Time Forgot looks incredible. The one that he's actually in the chat, I'm not just shouting out because in the chat, but the one about the original Ghost Rider looks amazing. The art on them, on all of them, is really good. We have a Solomon Kane one. So we have a lot of really good stuff, but like, I think that everyone really approached it trying to honor the original characters, but just kind of put their own kind of take or twist on it. In the case of Super Guy, there wasn't a whole lot there. So the way that I did this, I named him because he doesn't, there's, like I said, there's not much. He doesn't have a canonical real name. So what I did when I was naming him as a character, like, you know, the guy behind Super Guy, I named him Charles Green. And the reason was because Charlton Press, and the original creator, the guy who, you know, drew and wrote the comic, was Richard Green. So I thought Charles Green was a good way to kind of nod to his history. So for me, there wasn't much there to really draw from. So it was really about getting the look right, making it look as close to the original as we could while still doing what we wanted to do. Like I said, kind of making sure you could see his lovely face, and making sure that the name at least paid homage to the character's origins. So that's kind of how we approached it, I think.
What that's communicating to me is something that's very lacking in like the mainstream comics, because and this was my problem, because I had a debate on my channel of, are comics woke or not? And what I said is, yes, they are. Here's how you define wokeness: when the writer puts their own politics on the character, even though the character would disagree with that. And the way this links is that it's like, you respect the character enough that you respect as much of the character as you can, because again, when you have like a public domain where there's like nothing there, there's not that much you can respect, but you're doing it out of respect for the character, where a lot of creatives nowadays are doing it out of like profit, or like they want to make the character the way they want it to be.
Well, I think you're completely right, and I think a good example that you could use. Let's say if we lived, let's say we were in Bizarro World, and instead of Oliver Queen being a champagne socialist, let's say that he was like a hardcore right winger, right? You wouldn't suddenly expect after him being that to come in and have him marching with BLM and talking about leftist talking points. In the same sense, if I was going to write him now, if I was in charge of writing Oliver Queen, my politics have nothing to do with Oliver Queen's politics. It has nothing to do with what he thinks or believes. His beliefs are very clearly established. And so to deviate from that that's woke. That's putting everything that you want into the character instead of letting the character be who he has established himself to be. And that's awful writing. I had a conversation a while back with a couple different people, but I was talking with Animane in particular. Shout out to Animane. And he and I were saying that really the issue, I don't really think that wokeness is necessarily the issue. It's that they put wokeness ahead of storytelling. That's the issue, because they're not willing. Like, you don't have and I used this example on a stream a little while back. I know that a lot of people give a lot of crap to Watchmen and blame a lot of stuff on Watchmen, but I think that, you know, whether you like Watchmen or you don't, everyone can figure out pretty quickly what Alan Moore's political beliefs are as a person. But you would not believe that if you just read everything that Rorschach did and said from Watchmen, because Rorschach is his own individual character, just like everyone else in Watchmen. Ozymandias and Night Owl and everyone, they are individual characters. They have individual beliefs, and that's expressed very clearly in the writing. And Alan Moore's personal opinions have nothing to do with the characters' opinions and how the characters behave, because he's writing the characters. He's not just writing a soapbox, you know. And I give a lot of credit to him in his writing. Even if people dislike Watchmen, I think that's something that most people can give him credit for. And I do think that the comic gets a lot of unfair blame for a lot of things that people took from it. I don't think you can blame Watchmen for what people mistakenly took from Watchmen, but that's a whole different conversation.
It's like, I don't know if you saw this, there was a Batman comic a little while ago. So Batman is gliding through Gotham. He sees some looters like looting a store, and he just goes in the other direction, says, oh, they have insurance.
Yeah, I saw that. That's like
and I'm like,
yeah, it's like, tell me you've never read a Batman comic.
He has a pretty extremist view on justice, and not
just a little bit,
a little bit,
just slightly.
Yeah, but it's like a good example of politics done well that I've always pointed to is Hard Traveling Heroes, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, because you had the liberal character, you had the conservative character, both were shown respect. Here's the key part. Both, even if like if Denny O'Neil agreed with one and disagree with the other, they were both respected as characters, and they both learned from something. It doesn't mean that you have to like hold the character you agree with to a higher pedestal than the other one. You just have to put them on equal footing.
Well, it's really, and I think that you could kind of touch on this as like a social commentary, but I think that's because if you look at especially the conversation online now, we've moved so far away from respecting other people's positions if they don't agree with us, that I think that's the main issue when you have characters like that. Like if you just like steelman your oppositions or the people who believe differently than you, if you just steelman their beliefs, if you just represent it to the best of your ability, even if you disagree, like if you understand where they're coming from, it makes it so much easier to come to conversations with people and actually talk to them and actually reach an understanding, even if you disagree, that you can write characters like that. Yeah, I would say pretty easily if you're a decent writer, because you can get into the mind of the character, you understand where they're coming from. But I think that if you look at discourse now and the way that people talk about politics and talk towards each other, everyone,
like even comics online, dude. It's like,
well, yeah, that's true. That the conversation around so much in comics has been just I hate to use the word toxic because it's overused. It's been just so toxic.
Dude, if you ever want to be, for some reason, want to like poke the hornet's nest, I did a video once, and this was just my own independent opinion, because I'm not a big fan of Lois Lane as a character in the comics, the way she's modernly written, because I think she's written pretty much just as a damsel. And here's the problem with it is that there's no stakes whenever she's in danger, because Superman's gonna save her. Well, legit, I was reading a comic and I was like, so I said Lois Lane is, I think I used the word useless, which may not have done like the best example. I said he belongs more with Wonder Woman, and they did that in the comics. Now it's really popular. I got so much hate. Oh my! People tell me to go F myself. People tell me to shut down the channel, and I was like, well, no. First off, and second off, I'm like, if you watch the video, I say, this is just my opinion. I don't work for DC, so I'm not going to change any of the pup, as fun as that would be. I don't work for DC. Some of these people take this way too seriously, dude.
Yes.
Particularly, especially if you're a fan of Zack Snyder's movies. Like, oh my gosh.
That's the thing that kills me. Like, because like here, shocking revelation. I'm not a fan of Zack Snyder's movies. I know that you are, and it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. We can have our own disagreements. And to be clear, I acknowledge we did a stream a while back on like the weaknesses of his movies, and I was very honest. That's fine. I just happen to enjoy them because, well, this whole channel was started because of the Snyder Cut announcements. So I kind of have a little bit more of a linkage. And what I always say is that with those movies, they got me to look at comic books more seriously. In other words, consider them more, because beforehand I was like, really, comic books? But then and then I saw, I was like, no, I get it now. So but I have friends that do not like Snyder's movies, and I'm fine with it, because first off, to quote the Ben Affleck meme, these are fictional characters. So I'm like, me liking a certain director's movies, or me not liking a particular part of Superman will not impact the world.
No, it really won't. Especially like when you said you don't actually have editorial control over DC.
Yeah.
Wait, two things I'll add to that. Number one is that I had, so it was way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth and I was in college. I was I had a friend who I got along with great. We were in biology, and we just we cut up half the time through class, and we had a really good time and everything. Got to the end of the semester, and we were talking about, I don't even remember what, but somehow politics came up, and he found out that he and I had completely polar opposite political beliefs, and when he found out, he just looked at me, like he stared at me like in disbelief, because he couldn't comprehend that we got along and that I liked him because he made politics jokes that were at the expense of my belief system, and I laughed at it because he was funny, and so he stared at me for like a minute. And then he just got up and he walked away. And I was like, okay, so, and the next time I saw him, he's like, hey man, I'm sorry about that. I can't believe that you believe the way you do. And I can't believe that we get along, and I can't believe that you don't care. And I was like, dude, I don't care about that. Like, I believe you, what I believe, you believe what you believe. You're still my friend. It's all good.
So
yeah. It doesn't bother me, man.
You're allowed to have different, that's what people don't understand. You're allowed to have differing opinions on literally anything.
Absolutely.
As long as you're not an a-hole, there's really no issue.
That's the only thing that matters. Just are you a jerk about it or not? And can you laugh at at yourself? Do you have a sense of humor? And the other thing I'd say is that with comic, not just comic books, but comic movies and movies in general, like, you can objectively critique something, like you guys did. You can objectively critique something and say, yeah, this is probably objectively terrible, or this is probably objectively not that great, and I still love it. There are like games and movies and comics and stuff that I think suck, but I don't care because I love them anyway. Like, some of my favorite games are objectively terrible games, but I still love the game. Back in, like, I think it was 2015, 2016, Recore came out on Xbox. That game sucks. Like, it's not good, but I love it anyway. Like, I loved playing Recore, and I had a blast playing it. So, I mean, that's just life, man. Sometimes you can like things that are bad. You don't have to like things that are always objectively the best thing ever. It's okay if things aren't that great.
Or like
them anyway.
I think what a lot of people think is that if you don't like something they like, they take it as a personal attack because they're so invested
really true.
in it. Which, okay, but it's like the way I always approach it is that, hey, listen, I don't enjoy this particular part. I like this, but I don't necessarily dig this. It's like, with me, it's like, one of the things that I objectively cannot stand was, for the longest time, we had a big debate on the channel about the Flash movie. And I said, there are parts of, I enjoyed the movie itself. The story I thought was pretty decent. I acknowledge the CGI issues were egregious. Particularly, what I did was, recently I rewatched all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and as soon as Davy Jones came on, I was like, no, modern CGI people have no excuses right now, because that looks real.
Yeah, it looks. I actually, like, last year, I think I watched through all 5 again. It looks incredibly good.
I'm like, what the?
But I mean, I watched Jurassic Park 1, and I'm like, how is this something from the 90s?
That's another one, and I'm like,
right?
What? It's like a lot of these movies, and I'm like, look, it's like with Snyder's movies. It's like, look, I get that they're not for everyone. The thing that I normally push back upon is a lot of people trying to push like false information about them, like saying they flopped, or like Snyder doesn't like comics or anything like that. That's what I really push off, because as long as you're being honest about your critiques and saying, hey, I don't like these, that's totally fine. As long as you're not advancing lies, I'm totally fine with you not having not liking these movies. They're not for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if someone's just making stuff up whole cloth, that really doesn't benefit anyone on either side anyway, because that doesn't bring anyone to actually talk about issues that they might have with them, or strengths or weaknesses or anything like that. It's just a waste of time.
It's like, let me ask this, since we're on this conversation, what are some issues you have with the Snyder DC movies?
Oh, and it's mostly related to script, because because don't get me wrong, I understand. I know a lot of people that have issues with like characterization of Superman or Batman, and I understand that. Like, I get, like, in the comics he doesn't do this or he doesn't do that. I get that, and if you have an issue with that, if they have an issue with that, if they want to cite that, that's fine, whatever. My problem isn't that, because you can take Superman or Batman or any character, and if you're not making the comic book, if you're not saying I am doing a 100% one-to-one, this is the comic book in film form adaptation, which it wasn't. It was, this is a film about Superman, then what you do in the film has to just be consistent with the film. Like, everything outside of the film, like when I like, I have a problem with plot holes sometimes. And if the problem with the plot hole is resolved not in the film or the TV show, but it's resolved in a novelization or resolved in the comic book, well, then it's bad. Like, it's bad storytelling, because you did not answer the questions that people have in the media, they had to go find the answer somewhere else or look it up on a Wikipedia or
that
find
annoys
something
me
like that.
too. Trust me,
That
real.
drives me crazy.
And I hate when directors explain stuff afterwards.
Yes.
Like the Flash director came
then
out and said,
you did a bad job directing.
He's like, oh yeah, Batman retired because of this. Where was that in the movie?
Right. Maybe you filmed it and maybe it was cut off of editing and maybe the editor's at fault and you're not at fault, but somebody screwed up the storytelling if I don't have the answer to that in the movie or the show.
Exactly.
So that drives me crazy. So my issues with the Snyderverse are always related just like to scripting issues. And
that's fair enough.
Like, yeah, it's really all about that. I don't care about like Red Letter Media, they did a review about, you know, the Snyder films, and I loved they called I don't remember what they called him, like they said it's not Batman versus Superman, it's Murder Man versus Captain Psycho, and I always thought that was like a funny characterization.
Yeah,
I don't care. Like it's not that. It's like it's the script.
When you're dealing with characters that have existed for 70 plus years, I always tell people, no, see, here's the thing. You could say Batman or Superman wouldn't do that. Well, how do you know? Because there is no definitive version of these characters. There's been like 80 different versions, all of which do all of which character-wise, Superman is killed, Batman's killed, Batman's used guns. Every version of Batman has used guns or has cannon strapped to his car. So it's my whole thing with that, with the comics itself, with the complaints about it, about like the way Superman is characterized. I'm like, you can't say he's not consistent because guess what? There have been so many different versions of these characters.
Yeah.
A lot of which are consistent. It's just not consistent with the way you see Superman.
Yeah, it just needs to be consistent with the film.
Yeah.
Everything, like the starting point was Man of Steel. Everything needs to be consistent with Man of Steel. And then as every block is built on the foundation, the blocks just all need to be consistent with one another from the top down.
It's like I was debating Nerdette's newsstand on the Snyderverse, and she straight up asked me, are you okay with a murderous Batman? And I'm like, if it serves the story, yes, I am.
Sure.
As long as it serves the story. And first off, in BVS, if you actually watch the movie, no one's defending Batman killing people. Everyone's like, you need to put the brakes on. Even Alfred's like, put the brakes on, sir. But,
maybe you want to dial it back a little.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's like, dial it back. And I'm like, okay, then you need to actually watch the movie. And then Matt says, of the Snyderverse movies, I like Man of Steel, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman. Hated or did not care about all the other ones. Okay,
I loved 90% of Wonder Woman. I would have changed the ending. I thought the ending was a little weak, but everything up to the ending I did enjoy quite a bit.
The No Man's Land scene, she had to fight for that to be in the movie because Warner Brothers, being Warner Brothers, wanted to cut that out.
Why?
This is the same company, by the way, that created Justice League. Just want to be clear on that. So nothing Warner Brothers did back then makes any sense whatsoever.
Weird. I don't know why you would cut that out. That was fantastic.
The one thing I do get people on is that they're like, okay, yeah, the Snyder cut is the superior cut of Justice League. I mean, that's objective fact.
I don't know if I would agree.
Oh, really? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if I would. I don't want to use up 6 hours of your time, but if you do have 6 hours one day, you should check out Mahler's breakdown of it. It was pretty thorough. If you haven't watched it, because he talked about the Snyder cut versus the original. I don't necessarily think one is better or worse. I think that I will never say Justice League is not good. I'm not going to say that ever.
No.
I think that it had, I see what Joss was trying to do. And whether you think it's better or worse will probably boil down to where you fall in that camp of, I want Superman to be like X or I want Superman to be like Y. But I don't think
Christopher Reeve's clone, essentially.
Right. Yeah. It's because it comes closer to being that. Like Superman actually smiles and laughs in Justice League, which I would personally prefer Superman to be somewhat more like that, but I don't think Snyder wanted to do that. I think he wanted his Superman to be the way that his Superman was portrayed from Man of Steel forward. So it's more consistent. Like I was saying before, it's tonally consistent and everything is more consistent when you have the Snyder cut following after Batman versus Superman and everything else. Justice League is a weird deviation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, but not to attack it. I think both are terrible. They're just differently terrible.
Okay, that's fine. That's that's fair enough. And
yeah,
just to play devil's advocate, actually, Superman actually smiles a lot in Snyder's movies. It's just people like to ignore that because of all the dark and grittiness that Snyder brings. And I'm like, also that's the way comics were in that time period that these movies were coming out. And I'm like, you have to look at the way DC was back then, because it's like the movies for the most part are going to reflect the the tonality, if you will, of the comics of the time period. That's one of the things I've learned covering this stuff. And I'm like, it was the new 52. You had a young Superman who didn't smile all the time and made mistakes. So I'm like, what do you want to do?
Yeah. I didn't read much of New 52. I read a lot of the Wonder Woman run, but I didn't read much of everything else. But I do remember
read the Batman run.
I heard that was good.
Yeah.
I do remember Superman getting hit with a train because Lex said they just need to shoot him with a bigger bullet. I thought that was funny.
Something like that. But it's just weird. But the thing, so again, here's a perfect example. We disagree on the Snyder Cut thing, and I'm like,
exactly.
I don't care. First off, they're movies.
Well, true, yes.
It's not like we're disagreeing on political issues, and even then, I know you're a normal dude, so there's nothing.
Well, I mean, if you watch a movie or love it or hate it, what does that have to do with my life? Nothing. You buy it twice, have a copy in every room of your house. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. If you want to watch whatever, then go for it. I feel like that the people who get really worked up about this, I don't know. I think that they need to look at their priorities in life as well. That's what I'll say.
I've seen the Snyder Cut. I've counted 14 times, and I'm like, I really, I could care less if I'm the only person on the world that likes it. It's just, it's meaningful to me. I get it.
Yeah.
It's not meaningful to everyone. That doesn't say anything about the person. It's like my biggest annoyance was when movies like Captain Marvel and Birds of Prey came out, and if you didn't like it, you were a misogynist.
Dude, I hated that, but don't get me wrong. I'm not I genuinely do believe there is a war for culture right now in our society. And I wouldn't discount that. But when you see people who are on that side of the aisle and they're like, you hate women if you didn't like Captain Marvel, that's crap. But then on the other side, I see people who are like, well, if you like Man of Steel, you're immoral. And you clearly hate. I'm like, dude, come on! What is wrong with you? Who are you persuading with that?
The dude who played Lex's father in Smallville said that I question the parenting skills of people that like Man of Steel, and I'm like, what the hell, dude?
Hang on. This was Lex's father in Smallville. You said?
Yeah, he played him in Smallville.
Okay, so can we watch Smallville, which had psychotic sex cult members in the cast? Are we moral if we watch that, or are we immoral?
The way I do it is I just separate the art.
Or do you not care? Because I would probably just not care.
Because what does it have to do with their actual performance? It's like I got into a debate with someone about Gal Gadot playing Wonder Woman, and they said because she's Israeli and all that stuff. And I said, what does it have to do with her portrayal of the character itself?
Oh, does she look the part?
Arguably she does. But the point is, does she portray the character well? What does her nationality, what does her political beliefs have to do with her playing the character?
I would say very little to none. But I mean, I'm of the very old school belief that you don't have to I don't know, you don't need an Asian person to voice an Asian character in a cartoon. I know that's not the belief anymore. Because what was it for the X-Men 90s relaunch? Because the Jubilee's voice actress was Claire's voice actress. I'm drawing a blank on her name, but she stepped away from the role because she said that Jubilee needs to be voiced by an Asian character or an Asian person. And I thought, okay, but you're Jubilee. Everyone knows you're Jubilee. Why would you step away just because of some
And
I don't
it's
know.
a cartoon.
And it's a cartoon. Like,
no
that's the
one's
thing,
gonna
right?
see your face.
Like, so do you know who Christopher Judge is?
Yes.
Christopher Judge is the freaking man. Okay. I love him and know him best as Teal'c because I love Stargate. But I mean, he was also Kratos. He was also Magneto. I have no issue with him voicing Magneto. I have no issue with him voicing Kratos. I don't understand why people take issue with, well, I mean, it's kind of in one direction, if you know what I mean, but like, I just don't understand why people would like, because if their voice fits, their voice fits. Who cares what they look like? They're voicing it. They're just lending a voice.
It's like in one of the Batman audio dramas that DC was doing a while back. They had a black guy play Batman. I don't care. Does
Why
he
would
have a
anyone
good
care?
Batman voice? Yes,
Yeah.
he does. So I'm like, I could care less. And what's up, Hojo?
Hey, Hojo, how's it going, man?
It just astounds me that now this gets to animation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where you don't see the actor or actress who plays the role.
Yeah.
That's my real issue here. I'm like, wait a second here.
So what did they do for, I actually don't know. What did they do for Across the Spider-Verse? Because Miguel O'Hara, did they get someone who was Hispanic or someone who was Irish to voice him?
He's played by Oscar Isaac.
Okay, so they went with Hispanic. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess they like Miguel more than O'Hara.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I thought the Spider-Verse movies were great, by the way.
I saw the first one and I thought it was great. Yeah.
Second one was amazing.
I have not seen it. I probably won't. I've kind of cut myself off of the mainstream for the most part.
Really?
Yeah, I don't care if people watch it. It's just not for me anymore. I feel like they've gone in a different direction. The closest, actually, I came back for Picard season 3. I will never watch seasons 1 and 2, but season 3 was genuinely one of the best stories I've ever watched. Not much less Star Trek stories. It was incredibly good, just incredibly good. That was respectful of the source material. They actually nailed the characters. They actually got them right. And it was actually really clever and had a hell of a twist. So that was a great season.
Speaking of respecting the source material, you know what? So it's kind of funny is that the second season of the Halo show is coming out, and I'm like, am I really excited for this? Am I really excited for this? Because I'm a Halo fan, so I want Halo stuff to come out. But then I realized, do I want that to come out?
I want to be a Halo fan more than Microsoft wants me to be, I think.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, you keep doing stuff that makes me not want to be a Halo fan. I'm like, what are you doing?
They're fighting against my interests at this point. They're like, hey, you know that thing you love? Screw it.
And you know it's bad when they've actually put in the marketing when they're talking about like making the game. This is my other like big like red flag on companies when they say, "Oh yeah, the fans don't know what they want."
I kind of do.
I'm pretty sure I do.
I kind of know what I want. Yeah.
I have a shelf of games up there that's what I want right
I
there.
want that. I want that what was the direction? That helmet that you have over there?
Yes.
And that sword on the wall. I want
Signed
that.
by the Master Chief, by the way.
Yeah, I want that. That's what I want. I don't want I don't want any of that other crap. I don't want Zombie Chief running around.
Well, it's kind of funny. So I have a buddy of mine who's like really in depth with Halo lore as I am, and we watched all the episodes together.
Yeah.
So week to week. So episode 1, as soon as the camera pans over to Maki, I kid you not, he goes, "Oh my gosh, she's gonna have sex with Master Chief." I kid you not. From episode 1. And when I showed him it was kind of funny. I watched that episode first. And then as I'm watching the scene, I'm like, oh, he's not going to like this. I just sat him back. Here's my review for the episode. You ready, Tyler? You were right. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, you'll see.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
You know what's bad when they actually say it's not in the canon. It's in another timeline. My favorite is when they go, well, it would interfere with the story we wanted to tell. Then change your story.
Yeah, go. If you want to tell a story that's not Halo, maybe you should go write a story that's not Halo.
Yeah, it's just like
shocking revelation.
It's like when they made like those Resident Evil movies, which I kind of have a love-hate relationship with those ones. But I'm like, they have nothing to do with the game.
Yeah, I watched that. This was like way, because they're old at this point, I guess. When that first one came out, I saw it and I was like, well, it's okay. Like I kind of wish it had been about Chris or Jill or Claire or Leon or anybody, but it's okay. Yeah, it's like a side story. Sure, maybe we'll run into the characters. Like that first one was all right, and then I get to the sequel, and I'm like, oh, this is the worst. What is happening?
Zombie dogs. And my question is, those big dudes with the hammer, how is the biovirus creating those guys is what I want to know. That's my problem with them having these elaborate monsters. How does that happen?
Yeah, I remember watching that sequel, and I was like, I kept screaming, "That's Claire's move! You're ripping Claire off!" I got really mad because, like, she was stealing all the good stuff for herself, Miss Jovovich.
Or it's like when she becomes a god, it can like send out shockwaves. I'm like, what's that button in the game? I want that button. I'm like, what? I'm watching these movies. I watched them before playing the game. So when I played the games, I was like, where's Alice? And I'm like, oh, it's one of
God,
those scenarios.
Yeah, great. That must have been really cool.
Oh yes. Man. I'm just like, oh God. It's just, here's the thing. Those movies are just movies I'll pop on just for fun, because at this point I know they're in no way related to Resident Evil.
Yeah.
No, I'll just watch them for fun at that point. The one movie that I did enjoy for the most part was that newer Welcome to Raccoon City movie. Kind of, it had the characters, although they didn't have anyone that looked like Leon in that movie. So I was like, oh,
I heard about that.
Yeah, but it was pretty close to the actual plot of, like, I think the first two games was what they combined.
Sure.
So I was like, at least you tried. That's the
thing. An effort was made. Yeah.
What does that say? If the biggest praise we can give to a movie is that they tried. They tried.
An attempt was made. Good job.
It may not have been a good attempt, but it
was an attempt. Yeah.
It was an attempt. At least you're trying. I'll take that. At least you're trying, Sim. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
I think that was directed at our friend Matt and his apparent thirst for Miss Mila there.
Yeah. Everyone has that one person they thirst for. Me, it's Gal Gadot, but it used to be Megan Fox until I learned she was not all there, but that's besides the point. Hey, I grew up watching the Transformers movies. Those are movies that actually hold up pretty well in terms of the VFX.
Yeah, actually they do.
So the robots transforming looks amazing.
Yeah. That actually, those are solid CGI movies. Yeah.
Although if you watch Transformers 4, they left in green screen.
Oh, really?
There's a scene. So when they're going after, when the humans are hunting Ratchet, there's a van in the back is a bunch of TVs.
Yeah.
They left in the green screen on a couple of the TVs.
Oh, man.
And they left the Sears Tower in Hong Kong. I'm like, no one was spot checking this.
Oh, gosh. So just happens to be related. So again, lately I've been rewatching Stargate, and they left a Snickers bar in one scene in Stargate Atlantis. And it's supposed to be an alien ship, and like right on the console there's an open Snickers bar with a bite out of it. And then another one, it's like there's like a time travel thing, and they're in the 60s, and they show Chicago and they show the Sears Tower, and that wasn't built until 70s. So that was another whoopsie. So stuff like that happens.
Saying when there was a Starbucks.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, that's a series that I just didn't get into because too many characters I got to keep track of. I'm just like, no, I just want to watch the show at nights. And then here's my biggest problem with Game of Thrones. You would have an epic action scene. There were some fantastic action scenes in that show. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But then it would hard cut to like virtually hardcore porno.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, did I hit the wrong button on my remote here?
The problem, they named every clip sword thrusting, and it just wasn't clear on which was which.
Yeah,
so.
But that's my problem. And I'm like, that's what I tell people. I'm like, I don't want to watch that stuff. I get that that's what the person was going for. I get it's accurate to the books, but if it's distracting. Okay. It's really distracting.
I mean, I guess you could say it's accurate to the books. That stops being correct at about season 4 or 5, right? Because I ran out of book.
Yeah, that's true.
I haven't even been published yet, but I'll probably finish the first like arc of storytelling on my solo project before old George there finishes the book he's been working on for 12 years.
Yeah.
That's a personal challenge to me. I want to see if I can actually.
So, something tells me you'll be able to fulfill that challenge right there.
I'm hoping.
Something tells me you'll be fine, brother. But
you got a good chance. Odds are in my favor.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a good place to call it a day for this episode. Jared, it was a pleasure to have you on.
Likewise.
You're always welcome on the channel. We have to collab again real soon. This was really fun.
I'll let the Council of Jareds know that you were an excellent host.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. So where can we find you, and what have you got coming up?
Definitely go to fundmycomic.com and check Out of Obscurity. We are 66% of the way there. And if we get to our funding goal, that's awesome. If we can get to the stretch goal, we get an extra story in there, which is fantastic. You can follow me at Frost_comics on Twitter and on YouTube. I keep everybody as updated as I possibly can on all the projects. I'm just chilling Out of Obscurity, trying to get this to cross the goal and get that writing credit out. All of the money that we raise in this campaign is going to just print books so we can go to conventions and get it to fans and stuff like that, and kind of let people know what we can do. That's pretty much the long and short of it. Everything that's coming up is pretty exciting. Beyond Out of Obscurity, I'm going to be working on Project Seraphim nonstop. It's in the coloring phase, and then once that's out, I'll have updates on where you can find that. Sweet. On Twitter, or again, I guess X at this point.
I guess whatever. X. Yeah. A buddy of mine brought up the funny point. Is like, I don't know if it's so. He brought up the fact that like Elon wanted to actually have like video content on Twitter, and then he's like, I don't know how I feel about putting X in front of that stuff. So it's like
watching X videos.
Wait a second here. Wait a second here.
Wait a minute.
Like, what are you watching? I'm watching a comic video. It's not. I swear, it's not what you think.
It looks bad, but it's not. It's not. I promise.
It looks bad.
Just ignore the URL. It's completely
ignore tame. The URL. I swear. I promise you, it's not what you think.
I'll share it with you. You'll get bored in 5 minutes. I promise.
All right. So on that note, everyone, stay heroic. All the links should be in the description, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Take it easy, guys.